summaries. Okay, we're away. Yeah, so I was just chatting about the improvement in my meditation in recent times, Alex, just about brightening the mind, you know, focusing on that, and also breathing in long, breathing in, breathing out long, breathing in short, you know, follow, sort of knowing, but rather than just sitting and try, like not actively doing anything, my mind's just away. Whereas if I sort of bring some, like purposefully trying to brighten, or purposefully brightening the mind, or following the breath, or just how much it's helped improved my meditation in recent times. It's been nice.
Do you see that? Do you see that improvement?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
It's really wonderful to practice like that. It's really nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Does Dhammarato, I haven't had a chance to chat with, unfortunately, Dhammarato's been unwell since I've sort of found you guys. Does he talk much about how much meditation, like what a daily practice should look like as far as meditation goes?
So the way that Dhammarato likes to talk about it is to talk about the value or the benefit that we're getting from what we would probably call like a formal or a sitting practice. So way to think about that is, you know, if you're getting a lot of value or a lot of benefit out of sitting for a longer period of time, you know, then that's wonderful. But if it's something that we're like, you know, let's say it's bringing about effortful striving or something like this, you know, where, oh, I've got to sit for an hour or else, you know, then this is kind of more of the same old happiness trap, you know, I've got to do this before I can feel good. When really the recommendation that he makes most often is something like 5 or 6 times a day, get into seclusion and sit for about 10 minutes. So instead of sitting for an hour at a time, do it for a shorter period of time, because we're looking for, you know, effective practice, you know, just like we talk about in the Noble Eightfold Path, we could also replace any of those rights with effective or correct. You know, it's not necessarily, you know, do it this way or else. It's more, this is the way that might bring about the best benefit. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Hello.
And so that's the normal recommendation that he makes. 5 or 6 times a day, get into seclusion, 10 minutes at a time, and watch what happens when you come out of it. Watch what happens when you go into it, you know, and see just basically how the mind works.
Yep. Sounds good. I'll give that a try, I think.
It's great to be here together with y'all friends. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Scott. Glad you're here.
See you.
Luke, I saw those pictures that you had posted about the event at the monastery. That seems like it was a good time. Did you enjoy that?
Right. Yeah, it was fun. A lot of fun. It's quite a bit of work. Like I helped set up and clean up afterwards and stuff. So it's a lot of work, but it's very, you know, when you're doing something it's sort of wholesome, it doesn't feel like work so much. And when you got sort of 20 or 30 people together all working together to create an event like that, it brings up a lot of joy.
Right. Absolutely. Like you were talking about brightening up the mind. That's a really wonderful way to do it.
100%. I help out a fair bit at that place with events and stuff. Sometimes when, like with the Vesak in May, Ajahn Brahm comes and stays there, and you can imagine like 500 people turn up. It's just insane, and it's so tiring, but it's also a lot of joy and a lot of fun to do. So yeah, it's good. It's a good thing to do, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And it's another way to get into seclusion, like we were talking about, because you're
Yeah.
secluded from the world, you know? And so it's really wonderful. Like you'll go to the monastery, something like that, and you'll be able to see that in that container for experience, you know, the mind really has a chance to settle down, to get gladdened up, to really brighten things, you know, and then to come back into the world afterwards is a really good way to see how the mind spins back up all of the old dusty things that are normally settled to the bottom, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really good. It's nice to take the practice out of those 10 minutes at a time or that hour at a time and really take it with you, you know, to take refuge in the Dhamma out in the world. It's really helpful, really wonderful to have that resource available.
Yeah. I feel very blessed that I live in a place where there's a lot of monasteries around. I don't know, like it's just seems to be, I guess I live near a big city, so it's, so there's lots of places I can go to on weekends and stuff. Yeah, it's good.
That's cool.
Because I know a lot of people aren't in that situation, you know, where they have places nearby that they can go to.
Right. Yeah, that is a really big benefit. That's really cool.
Yeah, very much.
Also, like when you do stuff, you know, like acts of service, wholesome acts for other people, it's a good way to purify your mind because you're, instead of thinking about unwholesome things, you're spending your efforts, you know, helping out other people. And so you feel good about that. And, you know, that's generating wholesome karma and instead of unwholesome karma. So yeah, it's good. It's good to help out at like spiritual places and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good thing to reflect on too. Sometimes when the mind's low, like you're feeling bad about something or you're just not in a good headspace for whatever reason, if you can go, oh yeah, remember that last weekend I went and did that. It's a good way to kind of brighten the mind again. You can reflect on what you've done. I find that
Remember
as well.
the good you've
Remember
done for other you play the good part you play in other people's lives, and you know, you play more of an important role in other people's lives than we oftentimes think. So a lot of times we're thinking about our own suffering, but instead we should be thinking about the happiness that we've given to other people just by interacting with them, just by having the friendships. So when we have good, wholesome friendships, we can reflect on that. You know, like it's part of the triple gem: the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. So just the thought of the Sangha and the Buddha and the Dhamma is brightens the mind. You know, just the thought of the wholesome friends and Sangha. That's why it's so important to have a wholesome community and not be involved with the wrong type of friends, because the wrong type of friends are going to suck you into their habits and patterns. So if you're around a bunch of alcoholics, you're probably going to more likely be an alcoholic or drug abusers or whatnot, or Debbie Downers, right?
Yeah, it's so true, man. So true. Yeah, it's funny how I'm on a few Discord servers and you know I chat to people and stuff, and a couple of times people have kind of written to me and said, "Oh, really appreciate how much you blah blah," and you don't. I never even think about it. I'm like, oh, I don't even think about that I'm helping anyone, just typing stuff and chatting but yeah, like you say, you probably don't appreciate how much interacting with other people. You're actually helping people, even just with small little things you might say that mean nothing to you or not so much to you, but to them it might make a big difference. Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Hi guys.
Hey, here he is.
Hello.
Sorry, hold on 1 second.
No worries, mate.
Hey guys, sorry, I lost track of time. I couldn't be here at 1.
No problem.
It's all good.
Yeah,
Glad to see you.
Yeah, thanks so much for carrying on. I'm actually kind of busy, but I'll be able to listen if you guys want to take it and just talk amongst each other.
Sure. You
Awesome.
remind?
Yeah,
you
totally. Go
reminded
for
me-
it.
Yeah, thanks, mate. You reminded me of something, Scott. I remember in high school, there was a girl in my class. She was quite overweight, and you can imagine, she probably got teased a bit and stuff. And I don't remember having much to do with her. Like I chatted to her occasionally, and then I bumped into her maybe 10 years after high school, maybe longer. And she'd lost a lot of weight, and she looked really good and stuff. And I was chatting to her, and she goes, "I just want to say how much I appreciate how much you helped me at school. You probably don't realize it, but you really made a difference, all this stuff." And I was like, "I don't even really remember talking to you." It was kind of like, like you say, making that difference to people that you don't even think about. But then I guess maybe it can go the other way as well. You have to be like,
That's why that's a good motivation for practice also, because the more we can alleviate our own suffering, the more we can alleviate others' suffering. So the better mood that we're in, we're gonna naturally treat people kinder and more friendly. If we're friends to ourselves, we can be friends to others, right? And conversely, if we treat ourselves badly, if we let all these unwholesome thoughts continue and proliferate in our minds, we're going to be suffering, and we're not going to be in a position to help others with their suffering. We're going to be part of the people who are drowning rather than on the boat, the life rafts. Yeah. But,
yeah, kind of makes me think of some traditions you follow, like in Theravada Buddhism, about how you have metta practice or compassion practice, and it's kind of almost like a thing that you do. So you sit down and you bring up metta and everyone be well. But I sort of see it a little bit, for me anyway, is if I'm, like you say, feeling good about myself and feeling that stuff just sort of comes naturally. Like I don't feel like I need to try and conjure. Like I'm just going to be nice to people anyway and feel good about who I'm around, and rather than having to kind of manufacture it. I don't know. That's just something
I don't
sort
think
of observed.
I don't think manufacturing metta generally works. In terms of manufacturing like an imaginary so like you're wishing metta for people who aren't here right now. It's the same as, like imagining an argument with your boss that you had earlier in the day. You're just creating stuff in your imagination. It's taking you further from reality rather than closer. But if you can experience metta for your direct experience, so metta for yourself and all of its flaws as it is here and now, then that can be healing, and that can extend to your immediate surroundings as well. And instead of imagining like all beings of the universe, like sending metta to all of them, just send metta, send metta experientially, like in your experience. So like try to like radiate it experientially outwards, as if it's in your field of perceptions already, rather than creating these imaginary destinations for your metta. because I can think of other people, but that's just like the thought of a person or a being. That's not the actual being, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
experience, yeah, go ahead.
No,
What were you
no,
gonna
I
say?
was
Oh, okay. Yeah, but
just agreeing with you.
the experience of meta itself is just the it's the it's the relief, the openness, the acceptance of things. You know, when we love something, we don't feel any aversion towards it. So if we can um, radiate meta towards our experience, even our unpleasant experiences, uh, we can help guide them towards emptiness. So if we create more aversions towards our aversions that are already present, it just creates a feedback loop that's going to continue that karma of unpleasantness. But if we bring an end to it and we accept it as it is and accept the reality of our situation with love and openness and nobility, then there's no more gasoline for the fire. And eventually all suffering comes to pass. You know, there's nothing is permanent. Whatever unpleasant your state you're in will pass. Like,
I find with work, I struggle with that sort of attachment to the perception people have of me at work, like, oh, I can't make mistakes, can't. I'm getting a lot better at it, but I still feel anxiety and stress with work. So yeah, it's something I need to work on. Just try and, I don't know.
yeah, you're telling me, man, I get the same anxiety when I think about myself and how other people are reacted to me and how other people are thinking of me. It's all built upon the concept of ourself and how other people are relating to the concept of ourself in our own imagination. So what we have to realize is we're conjuring up all of this negative situations in our minds that's not based in the reality of our experience. So we may have like taken like this tone of voice, something someone said, or certain clues or something, and we start to imagine like uh, a sense of rejection and stuff like that, and it's all revolving around thoughts of I, me, and mine. So these thoughts are just thoughts, right? So the way we experience reality is a stream of sensory experiences, and they're always changing. So there's no real self to be the target of social rejection or criticism, except for when we imagine it. When we imagine ourselves, it's always in relation to past experiences and projection into the future. It's never based on the immediate moment. So we have to imagine the past and the future in order to create these unwholesome thoughts surrounding about ourselves. So what the good news is, all of the suffering is completely mentally constructed. And if we can wake up to, because this mental construction is habitual, you know, it goes on autopilot. So the practice is to wake up when it's happening and snap out of it, and you're to do it again and again, because it's habitually programmed, you know. That a lot of our fears and anxieties, they're instinctual. So even even before, like, the discursive thoughts put real concept into it. There's instinctual fears of being rejected. The fear of being rejected by the herd goes way back, because if your tribe rejects you and you're left to the elements, that almost means certain death. So we've developed these habitual instincts, right? It's the same thing for craving for sensual pleasures and stuff. So we have plenty of food, but we still gonna want to eat more, because back in the day we didn't have plenty of food, and any food we could get, we would constantly be in a state of seeking and searching. And same thing with procreation and those kinds of desires. So to realize that there's all of this programming in your mind and body that's going on that's not really you. It's a construct of, it's a process, it's a construct of mind. And you have the ability to wake up to it and bring an end to those constructs by simply coming back to this moment and realizing that nothing is wrong with this moment. Even if it means one breath at a time. If you just taking each moment one breath at a time without thinking about anything else, your problems they're more obvious. They're more obviously imaginary when you're staying with the breath, right?
This is what the Buddha would call samatha vipassana. We try to make it really complicated, that we have to do all of these techniques and everything like that. But samatha is just stopping. It's not even stopping thought. It's stopping the identification with all of your imagination. And then vipassana is nothing other than seeing. So once you stop this identification with imagination, you see reality just like it is. There's nothing broken. Everything's always been okay. Everything's always going to be okay. No past, no future. That shit's made up too, excuse my language. So you don't have to identify with it anymore as soon as you can recognize. So we wake up, we look at what we're doing, we make a wholesome change, and we congratulate ourselves for doing so again and again, because the mind learns through repetition. And we have these habits, like Scott was saying, these underlying tendencies that bring forth all those defilements and all those hindrances and other such things. And they're not ours either. They were given to us by, ancestors, and so we think we have to carry them into the future, but they're heavy and they bite us all the time. So we can just stop and see things as they are. And once that's done, we can put them down. And if we want to pick them back up, at least we're doing so with a unified mind. If we want to leave them on the ground and walk away, that's okay too. But the samatha vipassana that comes forth from the practice of anapanasati is really, really simple. We love to make things complicated. That's another old habit. But it's really, really simple, the teachings of the Buddha. Just stop. Just stop and see how things are. And that's it. That's all that needs to be done. Once that's done, all the work is over. We can throw away the to-do list and we can play with whatever's left here. It's not a problem anymore. No more problems, just opportunities. It's a really wonderful liberating experience.
Another thing Dhammarato said that really changed my view on things is we don't suffer because of what happens. We suffer because of how we view what happens. So it's because of, we don't suffer because of tsunamis, because of people dying, because of this. We suffer because of how we are, because we don't like it. We don't want it, We suffer not because of what happened. We suffer because we don't like what happens. So if we can simply stop not liking things, if we can stop wanting it to be different, then we can stop our suffering. So we think there's an external cause of our suffering. It's not true. That the cause of suffering is internal. So the mind is the forerunner of all states.
And when we talk about mind being the forerunner, we're talking about attitude. We're talking about our way that we perceive things. We're talking about the way that we respond. Or actually, if we're asleep, we're reacting. There's nothing actually intentional about the action that's being taken. It's just an old script handed to us. When we wake up, we regain spontaneity. We get to actually respond to causes and conditions in that moment. But free will is not free. We pay for it with wise attention. If we don't pay wise attention to what we're doing, then all of a sudden, no more free will, and it doesn't matter if it's mine or not. It simply arises in experience when we stop and see how things are. So it's a really wonderful way to practice like that because it's instantaneous. As soon as you come out of the story, like I said, the job is done. And that's really one of the hallmarks of the Buddha's teaching is it's here and now. As soon as you put the practice into effect, the results come immediately, and they're for the wise to see for themselves. Nobody can give it to you. It's like that Zen master story where the guy's like, hey, how do I get this enlightenment? And he's like, well, it's dark outside. How are you going to get back to your room? And so he hands him a candle. And as the guy goes to leave the room, the Zen master comes up and blows out the candle. And as soon as that happens, the guy wakes up. He recognizes nobody can give you your own light. You have to light it yourself. You have to guide yourself. And that's what the Buddha said. He points the way, but you have to do the practice. It really works if you do it, and you do it again and again and again until those old habits fall away and they get replaced with the habit of waking up, looking at what you're doing, making a wholesome change, and congratulating yourself for having done so. It's a really simple practice, but it's so effective. And that's actually why it's so profound, is because it's so simple, so no chance of seeing it just out of the blue, really. And if you do, you're a very lucky person. It's one of the reasons why community is so important, because we can remind each other to continue to do our practice.
Yeah, I mean, just being in this call, we're constantly thinking about the Dhamma. So that's the power of Sangha and wholesome friendships, is that it gets you in the state of mind to remember the practice, and it's very encouraging and uplifting to see the benefit of it in other people, to realize that we're not alone in our suffering. Everybody suffers. Suffering is the first noble truth, We're all experiencing this existence, and we're all experiencing the pain of this existence. And there's a way out, right? And the way out is the same for all of us, So we can all encourage each other and support each other on our spiritual journeys. I think suffering is too heavy of a word. Like Dhammarato always says, like suffering is too dramatic, right? It's more like a subtle dissatisfaction, just a sense of, just a subtle sense of dis-ease, of something missing,
I guess it's a spectrum, right? All the way from mild irritation through to death. Like it's kind of a
Yeah,
spectrum
it
of,
certainly can be intense
yeah,
suffering if we let it get that bad.
yeah.
If we let the mind spiral, it can get
But
very intense.
when I think of suffering, like the English word of suffering, I think of someone lying around wailing, flailing their arms, like really. Whereas, like you say, that's not really. Most of the time, that's not happening to us, right? We're just a bit like, I wish this wasn't happening. This is annoying.
So when people encounter Buddhism and they see the first noble truth, life is suffering or something like that, it's like that's the common translation. It kind of feels like people are like, I'm good. I'm not really suffering. I mean, are you a little bit dissatisfied all the time, always searching for something to? Yeah, I am. We can admit that, but you see, the dukkha is a much more nuanced word than suffering. That's just the point I wanted to bring up.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time, often anyway, I see people will leave it untranslated because it's difficult to really translate into one. Well, you can probably translate it into a few English words, I suppose. Dis-ease, dissatisfaction. Do you guys have any luck with the people around you who aren't Buddhist? Assuming you've got like family, say, or close friends or whatever. I've sort of given up trying to talk Dharma with them because
you just gotta
say
speak it in a different way that is maybe palatable. And the thing is, they have to want to hear it to begin with. So I feel like the Dhamma isn't meant to be proselytized. Like, you're not. The good news is we don't have to go around trying to save people's souls by making them believe Jesus or something like that. It's not like that with the Dhamma. The Dhamma is for all those who seek it. And like, so if it naturally comes up, then I think it's good to bring it up, and you can even talk about it in ways to speak people's languages, you know. Like with my mom, she's Christian. I can talk about things in like a Christian context, but it's the same principles of the Dhamma. Or if someone's more secular, you can talk about things just very direct, about mindfulness and attention, like without using too many advanced Buddhist like words and stuff like that. But I would say that trying to spread it is not the goal. It's more important that you live it, because if you're living it, you are spreading it naturally. You'll be teaching the Dhamma just by the way that you are, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I tend to find like my kids especially, like they'll sort of they just see it as a religion. Oh, that's your religion, and rebirth isn't real, and you know, they'll just sort of cling on to these kind of ideas that they have of what Buddhism is, and I'm kind of like, well, that's not really, you know, it's about present moment awareness and attention and removing dissatisfaction and whatnot. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, so the more you remove your own dissatisfaction, the more happier you are, the more your kids are going to realize whatever you're doing is working for you.
Yeah.
Rather than seeing your kids suffering and trying to fix that, because they can only fix their own suffering for themselves. You can help them, guide them the way. I don't have any kids, so I'm just speaking based off.
No, that's all right. I just try not to. I try, as a parent, the goal is probably to try not to add to their suffering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you see some kids, and especially on Discord, you know, who talk about their relationship with their parents, and I'm just like, oh man.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm only hearing one. You're only hearing one side of the story, of course, but you're like, oh man, like, yeah. You just, I try and accept my kids for who they are. Whereas I think when they're young, you tend to have this idea that you're going to be able to change them. This kind of, and I read a good book before my daughter was born, Raising Girls. And the first paragraph in it was basically like, any fantasy you have about what your daughter's going to be like or what your relation's going to be like with them, forget it, because it's not going to be what you expect it to be. I thought, oh man, that was the best advice, because you have kids, you're like, right, it's going to be like this. They're going to be like this. I'm going to treat them this way. They're going to listen to me. They're going to, and I started out like that. And then after a while, you realize this ain't working, man. All we're doing is butting heads. So I'm constantly trying to make her change into what I think she should be. Now, after a while, you just have to let it go and just let them be who they are. And it makes life so much. They're happier. I'm happier. No worries. Stop.
I gotta go. Peace out, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the chat, man.
Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you, Scott. You're awesome, dude.
Oh. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about when we're talking about metta being a natural outcome of correct practice. Because if you can accept yourself, it's really wonderful. Compassion as well, because one of the most compassionate things that you can do in this life is to let whomever it is show up in your experience exactly like they are right then and there, to have no judgment for it. You know, same with mudita. A lot of people talk about it sympathetic or empathetic joy, but really it's just rejoicing for others. You know, you see that they're happy and you just naturally, your heart leaps for them, you know, because you recognize that, hey, look, that person's not in a state of dissatisfaction right now. That must be really wonderful for them. Wow, it's great to be around people like that, you know. And same with equanimity, with upekkha, that naturally comes out of correct practice because you recognize that nothing whatsoever is worth insisting upon. Like you were talking about with relationships with your children, you know, it's just not worth insisting. It's not worth having strong opinions about what things should or shouldn't be, you know. And that's really what we talk about when we talk about anatta. People want to make it magical. They look for, you know, this empty self or something like that. But really what it means is anatta is the perception that nothing is really under my complete control. And when I think that it is, I suffer, you know? So anicca really means something more like, you know, nothing that is in this world can be maintained to my liking for very long, if at all. And when I have the opposite perception, nicca, I suffer, you know? So atta and anatta, they're just two sides, you know? Then when we can choose to see things as they are by stopping those stories, that's that same samatha vipassana that we were talking about earlier. We stop the stories, we come out of them, you know? We don't even have to stop the thoughts or anything like that, you know? The story that the thoughts belong to me in the first place is what we're stopping the identification with. They're just coming and going. They're just clouds in a blue sky. You know, sky's not mine, cloud's not mine, all of it belongs to nature. So if I stop telling a story about how things should be, stop having strong opinions, then I can see really clearly that everything's really just okay, just like the way it is right now. I can accept everything. I can really enjoy this breath. I don't even have to think about the next breath. Everything I need is right here, right now. And everything has always been that way. I've just fooled myself into thinking it was otherwise because I believed the things that were handed to me were me and mine. So it's immediate relief when we stop stealing from nature, when we just throw it all back to nature and let it have its things back. It's a really wonderful way to practice. And it's one of the most beautiful things about it is the simplicity of it. You know, it's really, really simple. Reality is just this. It's so simple. And we can make it so complicated so quickly because the mind is so fast. But if we recognize that, you know, we don't even have to get ahead of it anymore. We just know what happens and know that it's not really personal. There's nothing to take offense about, you know. Everything is really just okay the way that it is, just unfolding all by itself, no problems. We make up all the problems. Dhamma, it looks like you're home.
Oh yeah, dude. Sorry guys. I had a sick kid the last couple of days, and we were running around trying to get medicine for her and going to doctor's appointments. Then I looked at the time and I was like, oh shit.
Oh, good, buddy. All right.
Glad to hear you're getting what you need, though.
Oh yeah, totally. Thank you so much for picking up the slack, you guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man.
No problem at all.
Yeah, I'm just chilling. So if anybody wants to continue to talk or wants to wrap it up, you guys can just, it's up to you, man.
All good, buddy.
Oh, cool. Well, anybody else have anything they want to talk about before we go?
Just to say thank you for everyone for coming on, and Dhamma, thank you so much for coming on too. Appreciate you so much. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I look forward to
all of
this call every week.
That's awesome, Luke. Patrick, nice to see you. All right,
Cheers.
dudes. Well, thank you guys so much for holding down the fort, and much peace and love. It was nice hearing everybody talk. And adios, my friends.
Take it easy, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.
Ciao.